Welcome back to 100 Lies the God Culture teaches about the Philippines. Today's lie concerns Timothy Jay Schwab's claim that Filipino, especially Tagalog, is derived from Hebrew. As we shall, this is just another lie. We are going to look at Tim's justification for looking for Hebrew words, not his linguistics. Tim has two sources he uses to justify his search for Hebrew words in Tagalog. In his video series he says the following.
Another point raised by Padre Carino, where he even said that the Tagalog language, has the mystery and obscurities of the Hebrew language. So he even believed that there were similarities between Tagalog, the national language of the Philippines, and Hebrew. Stephen Levinson, a linguist, wrote, "At the end of the workshop, one mother tongue translator remarked that, had he known of the parallels between Philippine languages and biblical Hebrew, he would have found the learning of the latter, Hebrew, much easier. His remark led me to raise the matter with a couple of seminary professors who teach Hebrew in Manila." Are these professors ignoring all this evidence?
Now we have videos, and in our book we have a whole chapter where we found, at least I think in our research, at least 500 words that are Tagalog or similar languages in the Philippines, but you look at it and it looks to be Hebrew in origin. When the Spanish came here, some of the linguists that came said exactly that, like Padre Torino. He said that the Tagalog language has the mysteries and obscurities of the Hebrew language because it looks like Hebrew. A modern translator came to the Philippines to conduct a conference, and he said, had he known that Tagalog had such similarities to the Hebrew language, he would have expressed that from the beginning so that professors would know to teach it in that regard, with that as a foundation. Because when you connect the two languages, you start to realize it's actually very easy for a Tagalog speaker to pick up Hebrew, because they have, several words in their language that are already of Hebrew origin, very likely.
Tim's claim is that Padre Carino and Stephen Levinson said there were similarities between Hebrew and Tagalog because they share similar words. Some Tagalog words are Hebrew in origin. That is a blatant lie. Neither of those men said such a thing. Let's look at Padre Carino first. Tim's source for Carino is not Carino but a historian named Dr. D.P. Barrows. This is more of Tim's bad research. Rather than look at what Padre Carino actually wrote, he is content to cite a secondary source. And he does not even give the full citation where Carino says there are similarities with Tagalog in Greek, Latin, and Spanish as well as Hebrew. These similarities are not because they share words but are due to the similarities in the structure of each language. Padre Carino's full comments on the languages of the Philippines can be found in the Philippine Islands Volume 12, page 235. I will only cite the most relevant passages.
There is no single or general language of the Filipinos extending throughout the islands, but all of them, though there are many in different tongues, are so much alike that they may be learned and spoken in a short time. The Tagal embraces the greater part of the coast and interior of the islands of Manila, Mindoro, Luban, and some others. Bisaya is in use through all the islands of Apintadas, although in some other villages therein the Herian is spoken. Of all these languages, it was the Tagal which most pleased me and which I most admired, as I told the first bishop, and, afterwards, of the persons of dignity in the islands and in Europe, I found in this language for qualities of the four greatest languages of the world, Hebrew, Greek, Latin, and Spanish. It is the abstruseness and obscurity of the Hebrew, the articles and distinctions in proper as well as in common nouns, of the Greek, the fullness and elegance of the Latin, and the refinement, polish, and courtesy of the Spanish. Examples of all these characteristics may be seen in the Ave Maria done into Tagal, and, as that is a short prayer, and more easily understood than the others, I will place it here with its explanation in our vernacular, and with word-forward equivalents. In this way may be seen the idioms and characteristic expressions of this language which will please some readers, and furnish information, both useful and curious.
Carino does not simply wax eloquent about Tagalog but compares translations of the Ave Maria in Tagalog, Harahan, and Bisayan, showing the differences between all three languages. He calls the latter two languages rude and unpolished, There is absolutely nothing here about Tagalog sharing Hebrew words or being derived from Hebrew. The same can be said for Stephen Levinson, who also notes similarities between Tagalog and Hebrew. The similarities between Tagalog and Hebrew have to do with the construction of the language, namely, the verb subject object order. Here we see there are similarities between Tagalog, Hebrew, Greek, and Mexican. Is Tagalog derived from Mexican or Koine Greek? English and Chinese also have a similar subject verb object ordering. Is English derived from Chinese? Obviously not. Levinson's point is that Tagalog and Hebrew share a similar construction, not that they share words or a common origin. Now, it is true Tim has not said the exact phrase, Tagalog is derived from Hebrew, but that is his contention. He has a whole section in his book The Search for King Solomon's Treasure where he pretends to find residual Hebrew words in Tagalog and other Filipino languages. None of them make any sense. His method is to throw so much at the reader that they are overwhelmed.
As the map opposite illustrates, there is aptitude for Hebrew all over the Philippines. The list is far larger and we could publish an entire book just on the Hebrew influences in Tagalog and other Philippine languages. We are not requesting the reader agree with every one of these references and interpretations, but there are far too many that are direct letter-for-letter calibrations that one simply cannot ignore, especially in lieu of the overwhelming evidence this research has already achieved. Our point is to continue to go deeper and inundate critics with too much corroboration to even consider an alternative opinion.
Tim thinks he can throw a bunch of nonsense at people to overwhelm them so much that they can consider no alternative opinion to his claim Tagalog is derived from Hebrew. That is not how an honest researcher works. Why does he say the reader does not have to agree with him if he is telling the truth? That is the hallmark of a charlatan and a liar. However, if one looks closer at Tim's sources, it is quite apparent that Tagalog and other Filipino languages do not derive from Hebrew. That is simply one more lie about the Philippines being taught by Timothy Jay Schwab, who is the God culture.